Right, ladies and gents, warm welcome to all of you once again. You should all have a smile, in fact, unless you're somebody like me that works myself, because most of you should have received pay today. In fact, it's the 25th of the month. Welcome to our 28th free Friday lunch webinar that we present monthly. I present monthly on a very important topic of staying positive in a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world, I want to add. And just to confirm, we are recording this session. I'm not going to unshare and go off out of presentation mode, but I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you to please unmute and let me know if you have an answer to this or a positive answer, talking about positivity. Who thinks life is getting easier? Anybody? Mia, please let me know if there's somebody in the chat that says life is getting easier. I thought so. And wherever I go and I ask the question, nobody says life is getting easier. Beautiful quote from Steve Maraboli where he says, life doesn't get easier or more forgiving. We need to get stronger and more resilient. And ladies and gents, that's partly why I'm presenting to you the content of today, is to address exactly that. Because the reality is we've got so many reasons to be negative, right? We've got that guy, and we've got war across the world. We've got unemployment. We've got corruption. We've got poverty, potholes on different levels, physical potholes in the road, but also psychologically, we've got our own personal potholes, enough to be negative about. Here's the thing. This was my personal motto since December 2023. I've mentioned to you before, is that I realized that it's stupid to worry about the things that I cannot change in that moment. So if we look at the grand scale of things, talking about that quote that I've just mentioned and shared, we're living in a broken world, right? I think it's more broken than ever, in fact, and things are so out of control. And the reality is, as much as we don't want to do it, you and I don't have control of the out of controlness, if I can speak to it like that and mention it in that manner. We have to accept most of those things that's happening. You and I can do whatever we want. We can't change it. What we can change is the way we react and we act. And as a leadership guy, that brings me to leadership. Leadership of myself, first and foremost. Leadership of individuals, teams, and ultimately, that will not only have a positive impact on our organizational results, but also in terms of the results that you and I as individuals get out of life. So surely this is the area, the controllable side of things that you and I need to focus on. We have three options, given all the challenges we are faced with in life. If we talk about going down a rabbit hole or spiral into negativity, we can choose not to go there. We can choose to actually spiral into that negativity and to stay in that rabbit hole. And then at some point, we have to agree you'll have to come out of that rabbit hole, right? And the question we need to ask ourselves is, if I stay in that rabbit hole, like one of my, or my executive coach, Jenny Hogarth, once told me, Hekkie, how does it serve you? Well, the answer in this case is it doesn't. So why go there in the first place? So we can decide not to go there. We can decide to go there and to stay there for as long as we want to. And obviously, and I have to mention it to complete the picture, there's a third option where I decide to exit from this world, which is reality. I was presenting last night, emotional wellness facilitation session, which I do monthly, and big friend of mine mentioned that his close friend committed suicide 2 weeks ago. Didn't open up. Decided not to reach out and say, I need help. I need help. Those are the two numbers, ladies and gents. Roughly 14,000 people, imagine lining up 14,000 bodies, is the suicide number in our country, in South Africa. And the second number is the amount of people, 727,000 people, imagine that commit suicide around the globe every year. and especially us as men who commits 4 times as much suicide than women, need to get this. All of us need to get this from Brené Brown, who's the expert on vulnerability in the world. It's not a weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. Let's move back to the positive side of things. This is the quote that I sent out on the invitation to today's session from the Dalai Lama. Optimism doesn't mean that you are blind to the reality of the situation. No, it means that you remain motivated to seek a solution to whatever problems arise. Mia, as always, just give me a shout if you can't hear the sound. But listen to what Simon Sinek says specifically about this point.
Optimism is different from blind positivity. Blind positivity, which a lot of leaders think they have to have all the time. They think if they're positive, then it'll make people feel better about the situation. And no matter how difficult or complex or dark times get, these leaders come to work and say, everything's good, everything's fine, we're going to be okay, everything's good. And it actually backfires. It makes things worse. Because if I'm struggling and I'm confused and I feel tension and I see my leader always positive, I think there's something wrong with me. It makes it worse. This is not optimism. Optimism is the undying belief that the future is bright. But it's realistic. It can accept that the times we are in now can be dark. We are in a dark tunnel right now. I don't know how long we're going to be in this tunnel, and it's going to be difficult. But I know one thing for sure, that if we work together and take care of each other, we will get through this and we will come out stronger than we went in. That's optimism. It's the undying belief that the future is bright and the only way to get through darkness is together. And I think any business leader worth any value today has to embody optimism. But again, it accepts the reality of difficult times now and looks to a bright future.
So I want to share with you 5 ideas around the topic of staying positive in a volatile world. Number 1, and the idea, ladies and gents, is going one step back, is that all these ideas should, realistically speaking, assist you in doing exactly that, in terms of what Simon Sinek referred to now as well. Number 1, look after yourself. Take care of yourself. Something we omit to do to our peril and to the disadvantage of everybody around us. Not looking after our bodies, minds, and souls. And don't forget all 3 of those aspects. You see, at some point, I need to realize that I can't wait for too long to start looking after myself, to practice self-care. You see, here's the thing. If the oxygen masks happen to drop out of the ceiling of the airplane because of a lack of oxygen, and you make the mistake and you don't take care of yourself first, in all probability, the person next to you that you should have helped might be somebody close to you. They will die as well as you would. That's why they teach us to put it on our faces first, so that we are okay, so that we can make sure the person next to us is okay. And that in essence talks to us not being able to pour from an empty cup. We need to come first. And is it selfish? No, it's not. The reality is we need to look after ourselves first in order to be able to look after those people that we love, that we care for, including our colleagues as part of our organizations. You see, here's the thing. I'm traveling Sunday again to go abroad to work with a team for 2 days before I come back, fly back on Wednesday. And whenever I travel, maybe like you as well, we fixated with getting or making sure that our devices are always charged. But we fail to realize how important it is, and that's the big question, to charge our life batteries. Whatever gives you energy, I want to invite me to list those things and to do more of that. And whatever drains your energy, to do less of that. And the things that gives you energy, I want to invite you to build those things into your routines. Weekly routines, daily routines. Because your routines do matter. Especially, and I get that we get to those phases in our lives, as long as that's the exception, not the rule. But especially, routines matter if we are too busy. Because especially then, we need to practice something that I call sample habits. Whatever are the things that gives you energy that I've just referred to. If you can't do it and practice it on the scale that you typically would like to, do less of it. If I can't swim for an hour in the gym, I go for half an hour. And if I don't have time to do that in summertime and wintertime, I like now I run, then I take my best friend for a walk around the block, which by the way is not my dog, it's my wife. And at least I get vitamin D and I can just breathe and experience God's creation and relax and charge those life batteries. To me, charging my life batteries and what I try my best to practice is taking regular breaks. And it's not always, well, it isn't always in our hands, but the reality is we try and book things in advance for a year. And it doesn't have to cost money. If I go to my parents in Nelstrom, Morimole, I get served the best oxtail you can find in this world, and it's for mahala, it's for free. I ride my bike to charge my life batteries, my motorcycle. I swim or I run. And I try my best, don't always get it right like last night I didn't. To sleep enough. We cannot underestimate the importance of getting enough sleep and making sure that all the factors supports that for you to get enough sleep. Number two, I want to talk to you about in relation to today's topic is to speak positivity. And let's start with speaking positivity to others. Focus and have a finite look at the way we speak. Work-life balance, what does that imply? That implies that we've got to work on the one side, and away from work, we've got life, i.e., work is not life, which is absolutely nonsense. Just talk about balance. I refer to it as work-life balance because it creates the stigma around work. I have to. No, you don't have to go to the gym. Like my wife always says, Molly says, you have to go to the loo, you have to sleep, and you have to eat. That's all you have to do. The rest of the things are choice. I have to go to work. No, I want to go to work because I love doing it. I want to go and run and swim, etc., etc. And then obviously, we need to look at talking to ourselves. What are you saying to yourself? In what you're saying to yourself, does it represent you being your own best friend or your own worst enemy? And when you do realize that your self-talk starts to spiral into negativity, it's important that you do something about it. You and I, we need to stop and say, whoa, make a psychological and a physical U-turn. Get up from your desk and go and take a walk to the canteen or outside into the garden at the office or whatever the case might be. And then ask yourself, is what I'm saying to myself that's causing this negativity, is that really the truth? Or is it my truth? Which is not the real truth, by the way, typically. Number three, ladies and gents, I want to invite you to surround yourself with the right people. Because here's the thing. Negative people are like a ball and chain. They just cause you to drown and they just pull you down. I try to avoid negative people. Almost want to say at all costs. Iron sharpens iron. Positive people grow positivity between each other. If you have a negative spouse, you maybe can't really do too much about it, as opposed maybe you can try and change them. Hopefully you can. Negative life partner. Friends. I don't have negative friends. I don't have racist friends because they don't share my same value system. I avoid them at all costs. Family, you might say, but Hekkie, how do I avoid them? Well, you can. It's your choice, right? They're your blood, but if they don't want to change their ways and become positive, and if they've got a negative influence over you, you've got the choice to take charge and to avoid them. Colleagues. If you've got negative colleague, they need to change their ways or If you can at all, if you can possibly avoid them, avoid them. Why not? Number 4, look for opportunities. Look for opportunities. I'm a biker, like I said, and one of our mottos is, as far as safety is concerned, look for the gap. Don't look for the pothole. Don't look at the rock in the road, because guess what? Cast your mind back when you started riding a bicycle. You look at that rock, you hit that rock. If we look at all the challenges, all the volatility in this world, we are going to get ourselves to a point where it consumes us, as opposed to looking at the gap between the rocks and what is possible and where the opportunities lies, despite what we have to go through in life. And part of that is reframing. Looking at things through a different lens, looking at things from a point of view of possibility. Marcus Aurelius, the last great Roman emperor, said, conflict is an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. Although if we want to adopt a pessimistic view, we often don't look at it like that. See adversity as growth, failure as experience, change as opportunity, to name a few examples. And then the last point is to invite you to count your blessings. Here's a quote from William Penn. The secret of happiness is to count your blessings while others are adding up their troubles. Make a gratitude list. In Africa, our continent that we love and that we stay in, I was born here and I will die here. Roughly 40% of people have to get by on $1.90 per day. Now, it's much more rands than it was a month or two ago, but still, at this morning's exchange rate, it equates to more than 550 million people. Get that, 550 million people having to get by with 35 Rand a day, education, housing, transport, food, clothing, and I can carry on. How is that possible compared to what you and I have, ladies and gents? See, here's the thing. I want to explain it by the way of the fly on the pizza. We are so focused on the negative that we are only focused there, as opposed to looking at this beautiful pizza with all its ingredients, all the different things beautifully arranged together. And we make that fly that size. As opposed to looking at the fly on the pizza, we're looking at the pizza beyond the fly. And the focus is on the fly, on the negative, on what I don't have, as opposed to what I do have. Tony Gaskins quote from him, he says, consistency is the key. If you can't be consistent, then you can't be anything. Profound. And linking that back to today's discussion and topic, I want to say to you, and you would agree, that everybody can be positive, even in a volatile world, sometimes, right? But the challenge to you and I is to be positive when other people are negative. To try and be consistent around our positivity. And yes, we are human beings, but the question is, what's your default? I want to honor a guy that's still around. He's been with Polyoke Packaging for more than 40 years. A mentor of mine. I've worked for their group for almost 15 years. Jeremy McIntosh, when I was there, was the group MD. He's now the CEO. And he had this almost supernatural way of looking at things. And if I ask you, what is your default? I once asked him at a budget or post-budget function, I said, Jeremy, how can you always just look for the opportunities for what's possible? How are you always so positive about life and about the future? He said, Hekkie, it's simple. When I was 12 years old, I decided I'm going to view life like that. And that's where my focus is going to be. And the scary thing is that talks to our legacy. What kind of legacy do you and I want to leave behind one day? And the scary thing as well is the fact that our legacy is not a legacy one day, it's the legacy that you leave behind today. If the proverbial Patco bus hits me when I leave my office for home this afternoon, the legacy and the way I've viewed life in an optimistic manner, looking for the opportunities despite what's going on around me, that's either part of my legacy or it's not. Or it's the opposite, unfortunately, which is not the case, by the way. I put out these quotes that are obviously my own quotes on social media. You might have seen this one. The key to handling adversity in life is to practice effective tools and techniques that enable us to cope and even prosper during tough times. And my wish for you, ladies and gents, in closing, is to be more consistent in using tools, methods, techniques, also in terms of what I'm sharing with you today, to ensure that you view life through the lens of positivity, through the life of possibility, wherever you go. I want to share with you, and I'm not a trained psychologist, but what I've came up with through experience as well, what I deem as a recipe, take note, a recipe to facilitate positive change. If you are motivated, also in terms of agreeing what I'm saying to you today, that this is the way I want to live, that leads to us having to make the right choices, like actively practicing these 5 things that I've shared with you today. And if I do that, then there's one element that's still needed, and that is discipline, in order to make sure that it's consistent day in and day out.